There's an instinct in women that no one wants to admit exists. It's the instinct to abandon yourself for love that doesn't even see you. And we don't talk about it because we're too ashamed that we keep doing it. I want to tell you about a girl I knew. Let's call her Emma. She was 11 when it first happened, though she wouldn't realize it until much later. It started quietly, almost invisibly. The one day in class, she answered a question with excitement, too much excitement, and the room went silent. A boy in the back smirked, and a girl near her rolled her eyes. That was all it took. That tiny moment, that flash of shame, that subtle rejection, it planted a seed, and the seed grew roots. From that day on, Emma started editing herself. Just a little at first. She raised her hand less. She laughed a little quieter. When she was with friends, she made sure not to talk too much about the books she loved or the ideas that lit her up. She noticed that the less she showed of herself, the real herself, the easier it was to belong. She wasn't teased. She wasn't seen as weird or too intense. People liked her, but they didn't really see her. And here's the heartbreaking part. Emma thought she was being smart. She thought she was protecting herself. And maybe, in some ways, she was. Because when you're a young girl, the world teaches you early that being too much is dangerous. That being bold, loud, brilliant, passionate, those things come with a cost. By the time Emma was a teenager, she was a master at shrinking. She knew how to become who people wanted her to be. She could read a room, sense what was expected, and adjust herself to fit. People called her easygoing. They said she was so sweet and so agreeable. But inside she felt invisible because she wasn't living as herself. She was living as a collection of other people's expectations. And I need you to hear this. This is not just Emma's story. This is our story. So many of us, as women, learned young that love and acceptance came at the cost of our full selves. Psychologists call this self-silencing. It's what happens when you disconnect from your own needs, your own voice, your own truth, because you're afraid of losing connection with others. It's what happens when we believe that if we take up too much space, we won't be loved. But here's the soul truth no one told us. Every time you shrink to make someone else comfortable, you abandon yourself. And no love is worth that price. And when we do this long enough, we forget how to expand again. We forget who we were before the world taught us to be small. There was a night I don't talk about often because even now it stings. I was standing outside on a cold, dimly lit street, waiting for someone who had already shown me again and again that I wasn't a priority. My breath was visible in the night air, my hands trembling, not from the cold, but from the fear that once again, I had given too much of my heart to someone who didn't know how to hold it. And here's what's wild. My mind knew the truth. My mind whispered, "You deserve better, go home." But my body, my heart, they wouldn't move. There was this deep, ancient instinct inside me, pulling me to stay, to wait, to hope, to believe that maybe this time would be different. I didn't understand it then. I thought I was just weak. I thought I just lacked boundaries. But later I learned the heartbreaking human truth. We are wired for attachment. We are wired to chase love, even love that hurts, because it feels familiar, because our nervous systems confuse intensity with connection, because somewhere in our earliest experiences we learned that love was something to be earned, fought for, proven worthy of. So many women I've met, so many women I've sat with in quiet rooms have shared this same ache. The story might look different, the details, the names, the places, but the pattern is the same. The story might look different, the details, the names, the places, but the pattern is the same. We keep returning to love that leaves us empty because a part of us believes if we can just get it right this time, maybe we'll finally feel whole. Maybe we'll finally feel seen. This is the instinct we don't talk about, the pull toward love that wounds us because it mirrors the love we had to work so hard for as children. It's what attachment theory explains so beautifully. We seek what we know, not what we deserve. We repeat what feels familiar, not what is safe. And let me tell you the truth that set me free. You will never be able to heal by chasing what broke you. The love you have to convince to stay will never feel safe. The love you have to earn will never bring peace. The love that keeps you waiting in the cold will never warm your soul. But it's not weakness that makes us chase it. It's hope. It's the hope that this time will finally be enough. And that's the most tender, human thing of all. I remember a woman who sat across from me at a small table during a retreat. Her eyes were tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that comes not from sleepless nights, but from years of pretending. She said something I'll never forget. Her voice was soft, almost like she was afraid to take up space with it. She said, "I don't even know what I want anymore. I've spent so long adjusting to what everyone else needs that I've forgotten what it feels like to need something for myself." And when she said it, she looked away like she was embarrassed for admitting it, but I felt nothing but heartbreak for her because I saw myself in her words. And I know so many of us can. There's this betrayal that doesn't come from other people, it comes from within. The betrayal of your own voice. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in tiny, almost invisible moments. When you say, "I'm fine," when you're not. When you agree to something you don't want to do because you don't want to seem difficult. When you swallow the truth because you're scared it'll make someone pull away. When you hear that small, quiet voice inside whispering what you really need, and you tell it to hush because you're too afraid of what might happen if you actually listened. Over time, this betrayal piles up, and one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize your own reflection anymore. You can't hear your own voice over the noise of everyone else's expectations. You've been so busy keeping the peace, so busy being who they needed, that you forgot who you are. Psychologists call this fawning, a survival response. It's when you people please not because you're kind or generous or easygoing, though you might be all of those things, but because your nervous system believes it's the only way to stay safe. Somewhere along the way, you learned that keeping others happy was the only way to avoid rejection, abandonment, or conflict. And here's the thing no one talks about. Fawning feels like love, but it's really fear in disguise. And it costs you. The deepest wound we carry isn't always what others did to us. Sometimes it's what we do to ourselves over and over when we abandon our own truth for the sake of belonging. And I want to say this as gently but as clearly as I can. If you have to betray your own voice to keep someone, that connection was never real. Real love can handle your truth. Real love can hold your voice. Real love won't ask you to shrink or silence or disappear. You don't have to keep betraying yourself to be loved. The greatest act of courage is to stop. To start listening to the voice you buried so long ago, to let it rise, to let it speak, to let it matter. I want to take you to a moment most of us have lived, even if we don't talk about it. You're standing at the edge of a decision. It could be about leaving a relationship that no longer feels right, to be passionate. I want to be present. It could be quitting a job that drains the life from you. It could be setting a boundary that you know will change everything. And there you are, heart pounding, hands trembling, maybe tears already welling up, and you freeze. Because as much as you know deep down that the door in front of you leads to freedom, the cage you're in feels safer than the unknown. I've been there. Oh, I've been there. Sitting on the edge of my bed at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, if I leave, what if I regret it? What if I end up more alone? What if no one else ever chooses me? What if I'm the problem and I'll just carry it with me wherever I go? Those thoughts, those fears, they don't just come out of nowhere. They're woven into us from the stories we've lived. You see, our brains are wired for survival, not happiness. And survival to the brain means clinging to what's familiar, even if that familiar thing is what's breaking us. Our nervous system equates the known, even when it's painful, with safety. That's why we stay. That's why we stay in relationships where we feel invisible. That's why we stay in jobs that crush our spirit. That's why we bite our tongues, swallow our truth, and keep pretending. Because the fear of what's out there, the unknown, the empty space, the silence that follows a goodbye, feels scarier than the hurt we already know. And let's name that fear for what it really is. It's the fear of being alone, the fear of rejection, the fear of regret, the fear that if we step out, no one will meet us on the other side. And I want you to hear this because no one says it out loud. That fear is normal. It's human, it's tender. It means you long for connection. But here's what I've learned. The cage might feel safe, but it will slowly suffocate your soul. Staying in what hurts because you're afraid of what's next is its own kind of heartbreak. And here's the hardest, most beautiful truth I can offer you. Being alone in your truth will hurt far less than staying in what makes you abandon yourself. And when you finally find the courage to step out of the cage, whether that cage is a relationship, a job, a friendship, or a pattern, you realize something stunning. Freedom was never the thing to fear. It was the thing your heart was begging for all along. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when something inside you finally says, enough. It doesn't always happen during some dramatic breakup or life-changing event. Sometimes it happens on an ordinary day. You're sitting in your car in the driveway, staring at the steering wheel. Or you're folding laundry, or washing dishes, or lying awake at 2 a.m., listening to the sound of your own heartbeat. And in that moment, you realize how tired you are. Not tired in your body, though maybe that too, but tired of bending, tired of explaining, tired of waiting for someone else to finally see you, choose you, value you. And that's when courage is born. Not the loud, cinematic courage we see in movies. No one's clapping, no music swells. It's a quiet, trembling, sacred courage. The kind that says, what if I choose me this time? What if, for the first time, I stop asking others for permission to matter? What if I stop performing for love that only comes when I'm small, quiet, agreeable? Choosing yourself isn't easy. Let's be honest about that. It's terrifying because the moment you choose yourself, you risk losing what's been keeping you company, even if that company wasn't good for you. The moment you choose yourself, you risk hearing the word selfish from people who only loved you when you served their needs. You risk being misunderstood. You risk the silence that can follow when you stop shrinking to fit someone else's idea of you. But here's the thing. You also gain something no one else can give you. You gain your wholeness back. You gain the kind of peace that only comes from standing in your truth. You gain the ability to look in the mirror and meet your own gaze without shame, without regret. Psychologists talk about self-compassion, about reparenting the parts of you that were taught love had to be earned through sacrifice. Choosing yourself is the ultimate act of that compassion. It's saying to the little girl in you, the one who learned to shrink, to wait, to please, I see you, I choose you, I won't abandon you anymore. And here's what no one tells you. The people who truly love you, the ones meant to walk beside you, will never ask you to betray yourself to stay close. They will meet you in your fullness. They will celebrate the moment you choose. You, they, and the rest were never really yours to begin with. So when that small, brave voice inside you whispers, it's time, listen. Choosing yourself might be the most courageous, most tender, most powerful thing you ever do. And you are so worthy of that choice. Your job is not to earn love by losing yourself. Your job is to stay true to you, no matter who stays, no matter who goes.